He is a veteran in the financial and crypto industry, having served as Chief Financial Officer of Binance, Vice Chairman of Grindr, and CFO in other public technology firms. He believes the Philippines is poised to become a leader in the adoption of crypto and blockchain technology. Please welcome Coins.ph CEO Wei Zhou. Wei, so good to see you and welcome back to the Philippines.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Cathy.
All right, I know you're here because of a conference that you just attended. You were one of the panelists in that conference at AIBC.
Yep.
What are your takeaways then when it comes to broad adoption of crypto blockchain technology?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of the industries where they have to process payments, I think a lot of they're starting to explore stablecoins as one of the methods that they can use in terms of getting money in and out of their ecosystems. And I think there's a lot of excitement at this conference with regards to not just the use of stablecoins, but actually using some of the blockchain technologies from decentralization, from general ledger, in terms of actually using that, I think, in the entire gaming industry.
Gaming industry, but so that's just one use.
Yeah, I mean that was the conference. The conference was from the gaming industry.
But then Coins.ph is focused on blockchain-based, stable coins-based remittances. This is the key business.
I mean, for us, we are we're in the payment, trading, investing. I would say we're in the financial industry, right? It just so happens that the technology rails that we specialize in are blockchain technology rails, whereas before, a lot of people built their business upon traditional banking rails, right? Whereas for us, we specialize in digital assets, the trading of digital assets, the sending and the receiving of digital assets, and also the conversion of digital assets between into sort of fiat currencies.
Right, and you're a pioneer here in the Philippines because it was way back in 2014 when you began the business of blockchain-based remittance services. So that's gone on for like 11 years already.
For a while, yeah. I mean, Coins started off in 2014, and then it was one of the first licensed VASPs or licensed crypto exchanges here from the central bank in 2016, 2017-ish. And then based on that license, we had two core businesses. One is, allowing for retail users to purchase Bitcoin. I think that was a major, branding point. Was we're the first platform that allowed for anyone to buy Bitcoin, and a lot of people made very good money from that. And then the second big point is payments. I think originally we started off as one of the first e-wallets here. Not just crypto payments, but actually just traditional traditional fiat-based payment system. And then subsequently, because of our license, we're able to enable remittance rails, remittance businesses to be built upon crypto rails in terms of cross-border people sending. Originally, people were sending XRP to Coins, selling XRP into pesos, and then somewhere else in the world, like in the US, they were basically buying XRP with US dollars. So we're a pioneer in that in terms of using crypto rails to lower the cost of remittance here.
The cost is very important. I mean, if we were to use your platform, the sender would prefer that it didn't cost money at all. Could you give us like the whole process then of maybe somebody from the States wanting to remit money here through XRP? Yeah. And of course, the receiver would want to have that in some form of maybe pesos. Cash or pesos to go to the sari-sari store to buy anything.
Yeah, I mean, so XRP was a pioneer on that front, but then the last couple of years, we've been using US dollar stablecoins, USDT and USDC. Just for example, if you have uncles or grandparents or relatives in California, in the US, in LA, I mean, they can just go on Coinbase and basically buy USDC, right? And then once they purchase USDC with dollars, it's 1 for 1, right? They can buy 50 or 100 USDC, and then they can use Coinbase's native chain, base chain, and they can send that 50 or 100 USDC to your address that you have with Coins.ph. You also have a USDC address when you sign up for a Coins.ph account. And then you can basically copy and paste that address, give that to your relative. They can basically then send that 100 USDC over to your Coins.ph address. The cost of sending that is like cents, like maybe 1 to 2 cents, 2 to 3 cents. The time that it takes missed maybe 5 to 10 minutes at most. And then once you receive that 100 USDC, then you can sell that USDC on Coins into pesos. And then we can basically give you the best rates that's available, right? Maybe sometimes it's even better. It's definitely than the rates that you get at the airport. It's definitely better than the rates that you get at your local money shops, right? And it's comparable to the rates that you can get at your bank, right? And you can sell that USDC into pesos. And then once you have pesos in your Coins.ph wallet, you can spend that anywhere you want, right? Anywhere that, because right now we have been pushing the use of QRPH. So anywhere that you see a QRPH code, you can basically scan and pay with pesos from your Coins wallet.
Right, with costs clearly competitive versus the money transfers that we know, how much of a broad adoption has that then translated to?
Yep.
Do you have like the numbers here, especially for the Philippine remittances?
Yeah, I mean, for remittance right now, I mean, that's like retail remittance is about a $40 billion industry. And then business remittance, I think, is another $30 to $40 billion. I think if you look at our sort of, just stablecoin to pesos trading volume, our daily trading volume is anywhere between 10 to $15 million. If you multiply that by, 365, that's close to maybe $3 billion, right? $3 to $4 billion. So maybe I would say, maybe 10% of that volume of the remittance volume actually going. I've already moved on to crypto rails vis-a-vis traditional banking rails.
How do the others in the whole financial ecosystem see you as a competitor or collaborator? Like, let's say, traditional finance and also those in the money transfer business.
Yeah, I want to see I think most of people, whether they're banks or they're remittance companies, payment companies, they see us as an enabler. Like, we enable a new product line for them, either a new product line that they can generate revenue on if they're new entrants to the business, or someone that could lower the cost of business for them. Like, and so instead of using US Swift wire, which every time you send money, it costs anywhere between 20, 30, like, I don't know why that's different every time you send money, but it'll cost if you just send dollars from one bank account to another bank account, using Swift, it costs you anywhere between $15, $20. And the bank will probably charge you another $10 to $20 processing fee, right? So, and if you do that on if you run a large payment business, or if you're just a traditional company, and then you have a lot of payments, cross-border payments, you basically be charged these fees every time you send money, right? Whereas if you just move over to stablecoin rails, it doesn't cost you nearly as much, right? Like I said, it's like, cents vis-a-vis dollars, right? In terms of how much you want when you do start transacting that way. So for us, we enable we'll give you lower cost, right? Because what we provide is
lower cost for the customer, but for them though, as a
for
business,
businesses,
then they see you as competition because they're now having to see that they'd have to lower costs.
Yeah. So we're not a remittance. We're not in the business of remittance. We're in the business of helping you to convert your stable coins into pesos and help you to convert your pesos into stable coins, right? We're in the business of facilitating the conversion, right? Because we're a licensed cryptocurrency exchange. We're in the conversion money business, right? Like, we're not in the FX business. We're not in the so a lot of the players that are in the remittance industry, they're our customers. They use us to help them to move their money from stable coins to pesos, and then from pesos back into stable coins, right? So for us, it's an alternative to a lot of these US dollar remittance rails that they were using before.
You're not getting pushbacks from the TradFis?
No, because I think a lot of the traditional financial industry, their whole I would say business is built on a different set of technology. Like, our business is built on blockchain technology, right? So we can help them to move some of their business. Like, for example, just like we're a platform for you to buy and sell Bitcoin, we're also a platform for you to buy and sell stablecoins. We're also a platform for you to buy and sell XRP or Solana or Ethereum, right? So whether you want to invest into crypto or you want to use crypto to facilitate other aspects of your business, we enable a lot of those things for you. So I view it as like, more and more businesses will want to activate, right, crypto rails or crypto assets we're that enabler to help you activate that.
But then there's the regulatory part of the whole ecosystem. I wanted to know what the status is of the regulations in this country. Do they enable or do they hinder?
Our regulator right now, we're a licensed virtual asset service provider, and then that license comes from the Banco Central Filipino, so from the BSP. So BSP has been our regulator from day one. We're also regulated by BSP as a e-money issuer, and also as an FX and remittance business. And also our trading platform on Coins.ph is also regulated by the BSP. So we're a fully licensed financial. So we are ourselves, like you use the term TradFi, but we ourselves are also a licensed financial institution, right? Like, so operate within sort of the realm of traditional financial industries. It's just that the tools that we provide are crypto tools rather than sort of, the tools that a lot of people have been using on the TradFi side, right?
I would have thought more of the decentralized finance as against traditional finance, that you might be in the DeFi rather than TradFi.
I mean, the fully decentralized stuff, I mean, that's something that we can bridge your assets into DeFi, right? But DeFi itself is sort of like borderless, like faceless, like kind of a DeFi is a completely different tool. Like you can invest into DeFi assets on our platform, but if you want to trade on DeFi, like we're not a DeFi exchange. Like DeFi, you don't need a license to trade on those places, right? So sort of like the way I view it is that like there are a lot of the assets or a lot of the money in the world are still sort of in the traditional world. Like at some point that money needs to be bridged into sort of the crypto world and needs to be bridged back out. Sort of we act as more as the bridge.
To your point then that a lot of the assets are still in the traditional ecosystem, how then can we say that the Philippines can lead in the adoption of blockchain and crypto? I mean, what are sort of metrics then are you looking at that would define us as a leader in the ASEAN and as a leader globally?
Yeah, I think we're not a leader in terms of Bitcoin ownership. Like that's pretty straightforward. We're just not a rich country today, right? GDP per capita here is only like $5,000 per head, right? Vis-a-vis the US is like $80,000 per head, right? So like, or vis-a-vis Singapore, or even vis-a-vis Thailand, which is like close to $10,000 per head, right? Like I would say like from a Bitcoin ownership perspective, as a percentage of population, we're up there. But in terms of absolute ownership, in terms of Bitcoin amount, I think we're not. We're probably like not one of the leaders. But from I would say a percentage ownership perspective, we're definitely ahead. Mainly because we've had a licensing regime that allow for our retail users to buy Bitcoin legally since 2017, right? And Coins.ph has been around since 2017. So anybody with pesos can send pesos to Coins and basically buy Bitcoin or buy Ethereum from day one. And then that has allowed, and then it's a legal channel that you can send money to buy in. So we've technically allowed for legal ownership of Bitcoin and Ethereum and other digital assets since 2017, 2018. You can't say that about some of the other countries in Asia, right, as a whole, right? Like China, Vietnam, there is no legal route, right, for for banks, for individuals to move their money into a licensed business to purchase Bitcoin, right? Hong Kong only came out with their legal regime for that like last year, right? Singapore only came out with that regime, I think, a couple of years ago, right? So I think we have been a leader from that perspective, right? And then, I mean, people like in most of the countries sort of, don't think highly of their regulators. I actually think very highly of our regulators here. They've not only have been providing a framework that allows for a company like us to operate, but they've also provide, I think, both clarity and certainty in terms of like, these are the rules of the road, and then you can follow the rules of the road. And then because we've been using the same framework for the last 5 or 6 years, that you can expect similar framework for the next 5 to 6 years. And then as a business, that creates certainty and it provides transparency in terms of from an operational perspective.
So what sort of a framework are you seeing would be beneficial to the whole ecosystem then in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, like what you're seeing in the US, you're seeing more certainty on the stablecoin side. I think we would like to have some certainty on sort of so that we can issue stablecoins ourselves. Last year, we entered the sandbox within the BSP to issue a peso-backed stablecoin. We would like to sort of, see faster approval for us to, move that stable coin to a wider audience, because I think that will even accelerate I think on the that will further improve, I think, both in terms of speed and in terms of lowering the cost on remittance as a whole, right? That's a peso-backed stablecoin. We would like, for example, in like the example that I gave you in terms of a relative in the U.S. sending money to the Philippines, if we can get that peso-backed stablecoin listed on Coinbase per se, then that relative can just buy that peso stablecoin directly instead of having to go through USDC, right? They can just basically, with their US dollar, they can buy PHPC, send the PHPC to Coins, and you instantly basically have peso, like you can send the peso directly without having the relative here worry about, selling USDC into pesos, which sounds a little bit more challenging, right?
That's true.
Right?
But you did make a mention of the flow from maybe overseas to the Philippines. But what about here in the Philippines? Could you give some more color of the kinds of clients or users who go on the platform and use stable coins to actually send money? Who are they? Your clientele.
Yeah, my clientele is a lot of traditional remittance companies. So these are guys that were using US dollars before. Now they're using US dollar stablecoins. It's a transition. Like say they're still doing $1 billion or $10 billion a year, or but instead of using like 2 years ago, there's 100% on using Swift dollar banking rails. Now they're using say 70% banking rails and then 30% stablecoins.
Sandbox, very interesting that the BSP had granted you that license.
It's not a license. It's just there's no licensing. It's just like you have permission to do this, but you can only do this in a sandbox environment.
Right. What are you learning then from that sandbox environment that might convince a Bangko Central to get you out of that sandbox?
So within that sandbox, we had a list of KPIs. There's like 7 or 8 KPIs in terms of cost, user, and then user adoption, merchant adoption, cost, speed, issuance amount. We hit all of our KPIs within 2 months. So we entered the sandbox, I think, in July last year. It's like, here's a test. We passed that test in 2 months, right? And then now we're waiting to basically either to exit the sandbox or to have a larger issuance amount such that we can, move that, push the product out to more users.
So what do you think you'd choose? Would you choose to get out of the sandbox?
Yeah, I would love to exit the sandbox so that I can basically push for more adoption.
In terms of adoption, you're getting a lot of support from the US, very different from the previous administration where everybody just got railed for getting into the crypto world. How has that helped? That President Trump supports Bitcoin, supports cryptocurrency, and also his whole administration. Treasury Secretary owns Bitcoins, the VP himself owns Bitcoins, crypto.
Yeah, I think the overall shift in the US, not just on crypto, but I think it's just technology. I think it's a pro-innovation regime in the US. It's a pro-technology. They're embracing not just crypto, they're also embracing AI, right? They're embracing sort of like manufacturing. I think a lot of these things provides a much more optimistic and a view of the future. Whereas I think the previous administration restricted technology. They're afraid of technology. They're trying to put technology back in the box, right? Whether it's crypto, whether it's AI, whether it's just like, just even like big tech companies as a whole, right? I think, and Fintech, right, as a whole. And they were trying to push out a central bank digital currency rather than allowing for private companies to issue stablecoins. I think it's just that they were trying to come up with a lot of top-down solutions rather than embracing sort of a lot of these bottom-up solutions that private companies and individuals are coming up with. I think the trend is shifting. I still see a lot of residual effects from sort of the previous administration in the U.S. And here in the Philippines specifically. I think what I had, like, if you look at the U.S. right now, there's 2 bills within the Congress. One is a stablecoin regulation, and then the other one is what they call a market infrastructure bill, which will basically provide guidance or provide regulation for, not guidance at that point law, that's going to write the law basically how to regulate the crypto industry in the U.S. as a whole, crypto exchanges, crypto issuers, right? And I think what we could do here in the Philippines, I just jumped to the next point, is what I recommend is sort of let's wait and see what gets enacted in the US, because whatever that gets enacted in the US will most likely become the global standard for stable coins and for crypto, general regulation of the crypto industry, whether you're an exchange, whether you're an issuer, whether you're a blockchain, whether you're Goldman trying to come into crypto, right? Whether you're banks, it provides, I think, it will provide the roadmap of how not just crypto industries will get regulated, but how traditional banks, traditional fintechs will get regulated and can actually enter this industry. So my recommendation, I think, to all the regulators here is that, because I know, some regulators here have been trying to come out with their own, rules. I would say just wait, right? What you don't want is you don't want to sort of come out with a whole bunch of things and then have the industry, a company like ourselves, spend all these resources to follow the rules and then have those rules be changed 12 months later because we realize, oh, the US rules are the ones that all the other countries are adopting to, and then we're going to adopt to the US rules, which are maybe 30% or 40% or maybe even 60% different from what we're trying to institute today.
Right, but as a business, I presume you wouldn't want to wait. I mean, in between the waiting period, there must be some kind of growth.
Yeah, so in the waiting period,
for Coins.ph.
For Coins.ph, we're regulated by the BSP. We already there's already an existing regulation in the Philippines. And then that existing regulation have governed the industry for the last 7 or 8 years, right? And there's already mature players, right? Banks that do want to bank crypto have started coming into this industry, have already offering, like for example, our competitors, like Gcash and Maya have started offering crypto within their platforms, right? And then you have banks that have also started offering crypto on their platforms, right? But the only difference here is, like, for example, there's no Bitcoin ETF in the Philippines. It's like, right? Like, what if you have offer, Bitcoin ETF or Ethereum ETF in the Philippines? They have them in Hong Kong, they have them in the US, they have them in Australia, right? I think those are the kind of things that I think would offer additional choices or additional access points, I think, for traditional investors to come into Bitcoin.
So if you can't get him here, would you be considering other markets then for Coins.ph to actually become a global business?
Yeah, we've been doing that since. So I became the CEO of the business in 2022 after the acquisition of Coins, after we bought the business from Gov't. So we've been doing that from ever since then. We've been going Coins as a group. We've been going after licensing in other regions, and so in February of this year, our sister company Coins.xyz, we've launched in Australia, launched in Brazil, and plan to launch in Europe this month. All of this are done under sort of local licensing regimes, offering local currency. So sort of similar to the products and services that we offer here, we offer into those other regions. And then all of those regions are serviced out of Philippines. So we have a global service center here in Manila. So what I tell people is that, when you say, Philippines, I want to make Philippines a leader in the industry, is that then we can service users in other parts of the world. And then the reason why we can do that is we've been running a licensed cryptocurrency exchange for 7 or 8 years. And we have a lot of know-how that we think we can actually take into other regions, which have just started coming out with licenses, right? And we've been using crypto for remittance and payment for 5 years now. As I mentioned before, we can, in all those countries, they haven't even scratched the surface of using crypto for remittance. So, and then a lot of the partners, like for example, we are official partners with Circle on USDC and with Tethered on USDT. We can bring their products and services into those other regions as well.
To be fair, this is an emerging market, and the markets you just mentioned are developed ones. So you must have teased out the best parts of what makes Coins.ph work here, and what
there's a lot of there's a lot of similarities between sort of the Philippines and Latin America. Both culturally, there's a lot of Spanish heritage. And then the currencies are all called pesos: Mexican peso, Argentina peso, right? Like Colombian peso. Like only Brazil is called real. Like even Spanish peso, right? Back in the day. So there's a lot of similarities between Latin America and the Philippines specifically. And in terms of emerging markets, we're also looking to expand into Africa. If you look at Africa, the GDP per capita in most of those regions are actually below the Philippines. And remittance, especially inward remittance, is a big part of their economy, right? Is a big part of their, not just economy, but is a big part of their FX reserve as well in terms of getting dollars and then getting money back into the country. But a lot of them are afraid because they think if we open this up, then everybody's going to leave the country. They're going to take the money out of the country. So they erect, all types of rails to prevent it. But I was like, but you have to allow for this open flow and transparency at some point, right? So I actually see a lot of similarities. And then because we've built a successful exchange, we've built a successful remittance business here, we think we can actually replicate it in other countries. And then the reason you mentioned sort of some of the richer countries, for example, Europe and Australia. Well, the way I view it is that a lot of the remittance that comes into the Philippines comes from those regions, whether it's like the Middle East, whether it's in the Gulf region, as I call it, or Europe, even in the US. So we would like to expand into those regions, either directly ourselves or find partners in those regions.
There is fear. I mean, presumably in areas where it's the first time you're there, like in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
What role does Coins.ph have in educating the public
Mm-hmm.
in the communities it serves, and also helping maybe define that narrative with the government, the regulator, to educate folks about being financially literate in a blockchain technology
Mm-hmm.
setting?
Yeah, I mean, the way I view it is like you look at a lot of these countries, like people are using it already. Like the crypto adoption in Nigeria is like almost 50 to 60%, right? Same in Turkey, same in Brazil, like in Argentina. I think in a lot of these regions, like I don't like what I tell people is like what I tell is like don't dumb people down. It's like don't like nowadays, like with the cell phone, with access to YouTube, with access to TikTok, there's a lot of platforms out there that's completely open that anybody who wants to learn about crypto can. Like you don't need to sort of like do this top-down education program like to teach people about how to use it, right? Like most people, if it has to do with money and people think it's important, they can figure it out. Like I think that's like even with AI, you don't even have to do it yourself. Just ask AI. Like just go on X, ask Grok, hey Grok, how do I use crypto to make my life easier? It's like, hey Grok, how do I send money from Philippines to the US using crypto? Like Grok will tell you, download Coins.ph, open an account, deposit 500 pesos, convert that to USDC, send that to your relative's USDC account in the US or Europe or Singapore or Hong Kong, and then have your relative sell that USDC back into the local currency on the local platform, right? Just ask AI. I just think like nowadays, there's so many tools that's available to you that you don't need like a top-down education program to teach you how to use something.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
But when we talk about maybe the risks like hacking and the mere volatility of just investing and maybe cryptocurrency, that probably will require some
again
education.
If you get shilled like some random token, or if you get shilled like some like guaranteed return investment product, put it into AI. Ask AI, hey AI, what do you think? Like, do you tell me about this investment product? Hey AI, this token that some of my friends have been teaching me. Tell me about it. What's the risk, right? Like seriously, there's a term that I learned last week. It's like grind the silicone overlords, right? Like use the technology.
Okay,
like,
since we're getting into terms here,
I'm serious. Like
right,
I just think I think like pre-AI. Then I was like, yes, there's a lot of protection that's needed. You need to basically learn a lot and do this. But like post AI, there is a tool at your hand that you can literally just ask, and it will give you an answer that's probably 90+% accurate.
Well, I gotta be honest. I pulled a phrase here for AI to define it for me because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
It's called a rug pull.
Yep.
Rug pulls are when project developers or founders raise money from coin offering or launch a coin or decentralized exchange, and as soon as the value goes up, they dump the holdings, pump and dump as they call it, on the users and just go away.
Yep.
The perfect example was the Gemini Hawk Tua coin. So in that aspect of the risks facing a lot of us here, how do we come to let people understand, yes, there are risks, but it's worth the effort to calculate your risks before you invest or even go on the platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only investable digital assets in the long run is Bitcoin right now. I tell people it's like, you can speculate. Like there's speculation and there's investing. Like buying and holding Bitcoin is investing. That's like buying and holding gold or buying and holding, certain technology stocks or certain long-term assets, right? Real estate, that's investing, right? Everything else is speculation, right? When you speculate, you have to know the risks, right? Only put in what you're willing to lose. Like, yes, your company, and then when you speculate, you have to have a target. Am I in here to it's a pure gamble? I'm here to either to go zero or get 100x. That's a speculation. I'm willing to lose $1 if I can make $100. Or I'm willing to lose $10, but I'm trying to make $1,000, right? That's a speculation. That's a bet, right? That's no different than going to the casinos and betting black or betting 21, right? Those are betting. That's speculation, right? That's not investing, right? Investing, I think buying and holding Bitcoin for the long run, that's an investment advice that I can give. I'm not here to give speculation advices. Speculation, you can do your own research. Like, it's your money, right?
But you do qualify that it is for the long run. So it's something that you get into and just wait for it to go up. And I've seen it over the last 10 years. So, when I was tracking Bitcoin, it was just 16,000 and now it's like over $100,000. And in between that, when you look at the chart, the volatility is just so huge that perhaps somebody who's investing in the stock market might see that as something that they can't stomach. How can you then educate that investor that they gotta have a tough stomach for an investment in cryptocurrency?
I think cryptocurrency is just another asset class that people can invest in. Like, you can invest in technology companies, you can invest in, like dividend companies, you can invest in banks. It's just the new asset class. But it just so happens that Bitcoin itself, I really want to separate Bitcoin from the rest of sort of the other long tail assets that exist today. I think if you look at just Bitcoin over the last, it's got the longest track record now. It's been around since 2010, 2011. So it's got almost 10, 12, 13 plus years of track record. And then it's been averaging basically, 50, 60% annual return, right? Like, it's not like at any point, it is a very volatile asset. But if you look at the long, like, historical track record, it is basically the best return asset, bar none, like over the last 10 years, right? So I think, if it's just 3 years and it returns this much, you're like, okay, I don't know about the track record, but it's been 10 plus years, right? From a volatility perspective, Bitcoin is probably a lot less volatile going forward than it was the last 10 years, just because it's a much bigger asset, right? It's like $2 trillion now, right? Yeah, $2 trillion, 21 million, $100,000. It's almost $2 trillion asset class now, right? It's like one of the top 10 sort of asset classes in the world, right? Like, at some point it's going to get bigger than gold, and at some point it's going to get bigger than other stuff. It just it will keep on growing, mainly because of I don't think it's adoption. I think it's just awareness of the debasement of traditional fiat currency, limited supply. There's a lot of these things that Bitcoin characteristics just, it will ensure that as more people get to know it, as more people don't trust the fiat system, the supply is limited. Bitcoin price is sort of like almost embedded. It's like coded to go up in the long run, right? In terms of volatility, I mean, you get volatility in anything. You get volatility in real estate, right? Like, you get volatility in stocks. There's volatility everywhere. Like, even you get volatility in gold, right? I think from a volatility perspective, a lot of that just sort of, what's your risk appetite? Like, it's one of those things you have to train yourself. Like, I don't look at the charts, right? There's some things I don't look at the charts. So I look at it, it doesn't bother me. It's like, oh, Bitcoin went up 10% today, whatever. Oh, Bitcoin went down 20%. Oh, whatever. It's one, but I know that it's going to go. As long as you know it's going to go up in the long run, just don't let the charts bother you. Or if the charts bother you, train yourself to not look at the charts. And if you can't train yourself to look at the charts, and then you'd be like, oh, it's down, I have to sell. Like, most retail investors, they sell when things are down, they buy when things go up. Like, the funniest meme is like Bitcoin at 100,000 and the line's like that long, right? Bitcoin at 60,000, there's nobody at the line, right? Right? Bitcoin all-time high, there's 100 people lining up. Bitcoin's like, trading at like all-time low, nobody's buying, right? That's just the mentality, right? But the thing is that there's been enough history that you can basically, how do you use that to your advantage? That's on your own, man. You can't take what I say. You have to train yourself and learn on that. That's a skill set that you have to develop on your own. Yeah.
What do you see beyond Bitcoin? I mean, there's a whole lot of coins there to choose from. Which ones do you think will last, given the history we have already of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a lot of the other coins, like if you look at go down the top 10 list, like Ethereum, Solana, BNB, XRP, Cardano, and you go down and down the list. All of those I view as more like technology companies, and then they will need to continue to innovate. They the people on those blockchains needs to continue to ship in terms of providing better performance for their blockchain, enabling more use cases for their blockchain, and building more apps for their blockchain. Right now, one of the bigger trends that I see is bringing more real world assets on chain, right? Bringing stablecoins on chain, bringing traditional investments on chain, making those traditional investments available to users that did not have access before. For example, like you and I, we use Apple products every day. We use Facebook products every day. We use Google products every day, right? But here in the Philippines, we cannot buy Apple stock or Google stock, or we love Elon Musk, but we can't buy Tesla, right? And that's true for most of the emerging markets, right? Why? Because of some like arcane old school security law, right? That doesn't allow. But the thing is that you consume everything technology that is American or Chinese or whatever. You use all their products, but why can't I buy their stock? If I'm an Apple fan, why can't I buy Apple stock? Right? Why? I spend money on Apple every day. I spend money on, I pay Facebook, I pay TikTok. Why can't I buy their stock and own it? Why can't I own a piece of their business? Right? Well, I think blockchain enables that. Like we can list, Google tokens on our exchange today, but we need to get past the regulation that allows us to do so, right? And once it's listed on coins in the Philippines, we can list it on coins in Thailand, we can list it on coins in all these other regions, right? That's the next level of innovation that blockchain allows for, right? Because I think we're still stuck at a point talking about like financial inclusion. And I'm just like, that debate is over. Like everybody's financially included already. Like everybody has a payment app now, right? With that payment app, you can get accounts, you can pay, right? I think we should starting a conversation about financial empowerment, right? What is financial empowerment? Well, give people assets that they can invest in that can generate wealth for them in the long run, right? And those are not like, short-term random wealth management products that you're selling, right? Those are because what I see a lot in emerging markets and where I see a lot of like mom and pops and grandpas and grandmas get tricked is into buying these like 10%, 15% guaranteed return products that ends up being Ponzi schemes, right? That's what I see the most. I see it in China, I see it in Southeast Asia, see it extremely prevalent in the emerging markets. People falling for these like get rich quick schemes. And I'm like, you won't even get rich quick on 10% return, but that's where they think that's where the market is, right? But the thing is that, well, what if we can offer a healthier, better alternative, right? What if we can offer, BlackRock or Apollo credit funds that gives you 6% or 8%? That's managed by the biggest asset manager in the world, right? What if we can offer you, Amazon, which is or Google or Tesla, which are the most innovative technology innovative companies in the world, right? These are choices that I think did not exist, or they did exist, but we did not have access to, right? I think that's what I mean by financial empowerment, right? We need to give real investment products, I think, to our users, and that's where the empowerment comes in.
Just as a final point, because we started mentioning it, iGaming. How much of a prospect is that for the business of Coins.ph here?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we just want to be payment service providers, I think, for that industry. And then, for example, in the Philippines, I know we service some of the licensed gaming players, and then we're in discussion with some of the landed casinos to help them to expand their customers, right? Because right now there's a lot of tourists coming in from whether it's China, whether it's Japan, whether it's Korea, and then they come with stablecoins, right? They don't come with yen or won or RMB or Hong Kong dollars, whatever. They come with stablecoins, right? They come with USDT, and then we need to make sure that these casinos, wants to service them, but how can we do that in a compliant manner, right? And then that's where we come in, because we are a regulated financial company, right? And so we can work with other licensed players to basically better service these customers.
We're looking forward to more use cases then here in the Philippines and globally.
Sure.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Cathy.
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And catch us again next Thursday, 9 p.m. Philippine Standard Time on One News. And you can also check out the long conversation on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And if you haven't done so, like or follow my social media pages. I'm Cathy Yang. This is Thought Leaders.